Okay, before we get to our interview, a quick word from our friends at LinkedIn. Hiring isn't as simple as putting an ad in the paper or posting it to a job board. When you're juggling hiring with everything it takes to grow your business, it's important that you reach the right candidates at the right time. That's where LinkedIn comes in. You need to get on LinkedIn right now. You need to be on LinkedIn if you're looking for a job. You need to be on LinkedIn if you are posting a job. We post all of our jobs at Barstool Sports on LinkedIn. If you want to work for us, that's where you have to be. And if you're an employer, you need to be posting your jobs at LinkedIn, because you wouldn't be go fishing in a small watering hole. You do it in the ocean where you can get a lot of fish. And over 600 million members visit LinkedIn to connect, learn, and grow as professionals and discover new job opportunities. That's how LinkedIn can make sure your job post gets in front of people you want to hire, people with the right hard and soft skills you're looking for, things like collaboration, creativity, adaptability. LinkedIn does the legwork to match you to the most qualified candidates so you can focus on hiring the person who will have a big impact on your business. A hire is made every 8 seconds on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can pay what you want, and the first $50 is on them. Just visit linkedin.com/thecorp. Again, that's linkedin.com/thecorp to get $50 off your first job post. Terms and conditions apply, but go right now. LinkedIn Jobs, linkedin.com/thecorp, and use linkedin.com/thecorp to get $50 off your first job post.
You're listening to The Corp, presented by Barstool Sports.
Here we are with, full disclosure, a very good friend that I've known for almost 20 years, Aryeh Bourkoff. First of all, you've been from all over the place, starting Palo Alto, Baltimore. You went to school in U.S. San Diego with a degree in economics, and you've been such an inspiration because I've seen your growth from UBS to now being the CEO of LionTree. Tell us a little bit about, your background, your parents, and what got you to this place where you're so damn gritty and good.
Well, thank you, Alex, and thank you, Erika, for having me. It's a pleasure. I feel like I've been watching you grow, and I remember a story before I get to me. I remember a story that you told me probably like 15 years ago. You said, Aryeh, for an athlete, I have a maturity date on my contacts. I go, what does that mean? He goes, well, for you in business, you're going to develop contacts for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. It's cumulative. Every year you're going to be more people, and your Rolodex is going to grow and grow and grow. But he goes, for an athlete, by the time I'm 35 to 40, people are not going to want to be meeting me as much. Yeah. So I have to start to transition the way I build myself and my career and my business into other forms besides being an athlete, so I can uncap that potential of my Rolodex. And I was like, wow, that was prescient. And then I told you that story a few years ago, and you said, I said that?
Exactly.
But you're doing it. You're 100% doing it. And we're at conferences, and you're with Erika, and you're building businesses, and
we're having a blast.
You've uncapped your upside of your network and people that respect and know you and want to build with you. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
My story is probably similar to a lot of people. I'm a first-generation American. Mm-hmm. I was born in California, but my parents were from different countries and came to study in the U.S. My dad went to MIT in Boston. My mom went to Simmons. They met there. They got married. They moved to Berkeley, California for my father to get his PhD, and I was born there. And after about 9 years, they went to Baltimore because my father went to work for Johns Hopkins. He's in electrical engineering and physics. So a full academic family, and I moved to New York right out of school about 22 years ago or so. And I came out of school, like a lot of people probably listening to your podcast, thinking, what do I want to do? What's my vocation? What's my expertise? And I realized I had none, right? Maybe I could talk to people or just out-hustle them and have a good work ethic. But I really didn't have any real expertise. I mean, economics, history, it's a classic liberal arts education. So I moved to the center of the world of finance, which was New York. I said, if I'm going to do something, I may as well put myself in the middle of the action. And then I'll try to do what I can do. And I remember finding myself an interview with Oppenheimer, and I had this interview with a research analyst in the oil and gas industry, and he interviewed me, and I thought I nailed the interview. Like, I was in New York, I thought my first interview, I nailed it. Like, who does this? It's crazy. And afterwards he goes, okay, do you know the programming language Visual Basic? I said, what? And he goes, do you know how to do Visual Basic? I need help with this programming language. And these are like really tough words for an undergraduate to hear. And I said, no, but I'll learn it in 2 weeks and I'll come back to you. He goes, great, call me when you figure it out. So I bought myself a laptop, I got myself an apartment to rent, and I learned Visual Basic. And after 2 weeks, I called them and I said, you know, sir, I got it. I'm ready. Never return my phone call. I said, I got it. Come on, never return my phone call. And then I was dejected. I said, what do I do? And I was sitting in this big city, wanting to do finance, and you start to learn.
Basic.
Yeah, I knew Visual Basic, and you start to figure out, like, okay, do I want to stay here and be uncomfortable for a while, or do I want to go back home and give up? And I said, you know what, I'm just going to stay. And then I became a professional job seeker. It took me about 4 months. I did everything but put resumes under windshield wipers. Like, I was really trying to figure it out, filling out in New York.
Today that's called an entrepreneur, so you're good.
Yeah. But you know what? When
aspire to that.
in the generation before ours, there was no word entrepreneur.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a made-up term for our
It was
generation.
called
You were
unemployed.
doing something wrong.
Yeah, people just did things, you know.
Yeah.
And so then fast forward, I was at UBS running research before I even went to banking, and I found out that we hired this oil and gas analyst. And I went to look at the guy's name, and it was the same guy that never returned my phone call. And I went to his corner office, and I knocked on his door and I said, "Hey, how are you?" I don't even want to mention his name. I go, "How are you?" And he says, "Good. You know, you look familiar." And I said, "I just want you to know I mastered that Visual Basic language, and I'm out of here. I'm never gonna talk to you again."
Do you watch Game of Thrones?
I don't watch Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
but the story, like the lesson there is the toe you step on today to be connected to the ass you're going to kiss tomorrow.
Yep.
I love
So
that.
You're
Just
like
be careful.
Aryeh with a list, so watch out for Aryeh.
Yeah.
So tell a little bit, Aryeh. I mean, I hear the word merchant bank and I just can't help thinking like Pirates of the Caribbean and there's like loot in boxes lying around. Like explain, like one of the things I think that's very understated about you is you are one of, if not the biggest, most sought after, most highly respected power brokers in the media, technology, I would say culture, media, and technology sectors. Everyone knows you. Everyone speaks of you. Explain what LionTree does. Like explain the business, and then also how do you think about that responsibility and opportunity of connecting media companies, little ones with big ones, and influencers with technology? Like tell us how you think about those pieces coming together.
Yeah, I mean, so you know, I appreciate everything you said, and
I just don't want to be
everything.
on your list.
Exactly. I got some
You
compliments
should say
coming
something
too.
nice too. Yeah.
I mean, like everything, like you guys, you have to work hard at anything you do. But the LionTree business is what we call a merchant bank. What a merchant bank means, at its core, is we advise companies on fulfilling their goals, whether they want to merge with other companies or they want to raise capital. And sometimes we also will invest in those companies, not just advise them. So what does that really mean? Effectively, we're helping people, in my mind, achieve their hopes and dreams. So every company has complicated numbers and fundamentals, but every single one is run by an individual person with flesh and blood and psychology and everything else at the tip of the spear. So you have to know what they're thinking and what his or her desires are for life goals, for the company, married with what the company should be doing. So for example, we merge companies like Comcast with NBC Universal. We're so lucky to be involved in deals like that, or Stars merging with Lionsgate. But these are big transactions that affect the landscape of the media industry. But in reality, it starts with what a company needs based on the individual's objectives. And we have to listen to those things.
You're like a super-powered guidance counselor for CEOs and business, and then you put these big things together.
Yes, I'm a guidance counselor with the help of a team that can crunch the numbers and leave nothing to chance.
Brokering,
Yeah.
landscape shifting deals.
Yeah, and in a fully artistic way,
Yeah.
you're trying to look at the landscape as it exists today and imagine what it could be like in the future. And the entire world of business can be summed up in one thing. You're trying to predict the future. Whoever predicts the future first wins. If I told you it was going to be on CNBC tomorrow at 6 p.m., exactly, and you believed me, you can make $1 billion by investing in that dynamic. So predicting the future is all about what you know, pattern recognition, you know, having the ability to change on the fly, and listening to people, and figuring out what they really want to achieve, and then delivering that. Leave nothing to chance.
You know, you talk about your father having a PhD from MIT, but I don't look at you, Aryeh, as an academic. And I mean that in the most complimentary way, because what you are, while you're very academic in your way, you're one of the most brilliant people when it comes to people, touch, high touch. And the reason why everyone feels like they're your best friend is because you're very trustworthy and because you spend a lot of time, and it's hard for young entrepreneurs to understand this, really investing into others. And I really believe you spend 90% of your time doing for others, and the 10%, then you have an enormous business. What is it about you that you can tell our young listeners that you can build your network? How do you do that? Because it's scary sometimes to reach out to an Erika or an Aryeh.
Well, I think building the network is all about how you treat people. And a lot of people, when they speak, focus on what they're saying. But very few people focus on how it's landing to the other person, which is all that matters. What you're saying is irrelevant versus how it lands.
Yep.
So really, it's like thinking about a NFL sports play. If you're walking into the play and you're going to throw a post pattern, you're the quarterback, and you throw the post pattern because that's what you prepare for, but you're on the field and the person went down towards like a slant, you better throw the slant, because if you throw the post pattern, the ball's going to land on the floor and there's no one there, right? So you have to focus on like where people are going to be, where people are going, and anticipate them, which is really about empathy, identifying with others versus just thinking about how you see the world. And I think that ability to put yourself in the shoes of the other person is a really, really important dynamic. And then try to come through for people. The only people you want to exclude from your network are the people that lack integrity. They could be harmful. But otherwise, people are just teaching you about themselves all the time. So catalog that, be responsive to them, and then keep growing. I believe in a cumulative life where you're growing your network all the time and you don't flush the past for the future. You try to keep it all together as much as you can, as long as people treat you well, and then you can give back to them. So I think delivering what you say is also an important thing.
I also like that the way you think about markets and business is also very practical, personal advice. Have integrity, do what you say, look to the future, be creative. I think that those, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about, gosh, those are things that I could do a better job of, or those are things that I could incorporate into not just our business, but my life. Like, I think that's also, I think understanding the dynamics of the listener and the doer is really important. So I love that. One thing I think that you do better than almost anyone is give a sense of what do you think the future is? Like, what is actually happening? There's so much transition, there's so much change. What do you see?
Well, I think linking your last question with this next question is this concept of being curious. Curiosity is important. Curiosity just means looking for things that you don't yet know, right? And so there's tremendous comfort in being part of a herd mentality. A conventional thought feels good because everyone's around you.
Yep.
And it feels like comfortable, like a blanket. But you're not going to make a difference thinking like everybody else. You could be wrong if you think differently, but you're not going to make an impact if you're thinking like everybody else. So I always look at things and try to go a bit against the grain.
Yep.
So if everyone's saying, oh my goodness, like the sky is falling, because the markets are changing, et cetera, I say, well, maybe there's a more optimistic view of that. Or everyone's too bullish and buying stocks at huge multiples they're falling in love with stocks or companies, and say, well, maybe there's some holes we want to look at. So I very much believe in this reversion to the mean. When you wake up in the morning and things feel really, really down, they're probably going to get better. And when things feel really, really great and euphoric, they're probably going to get a little worse. Just get comfortable with the fact that there's this normal magnetism towards the equilibrium. And understand that so you don't play to extremes. So you don't believe your own bullshit, so to speak, right? And I think it's really important because the world is a very good equalizer. There's so many variables.
In baseball we call it, you're not as good as you feel that day when you hit 2 home runs, and you're not as bad as the day when you struck out 4 times. There's probably somewhere in the middle. And I think the same is true for business and investing. But
unless you strike out 4 times like for 2 weeks straight.
Yeah, then you're in AAA.
Then you're in a slump, yeah.
So you've done some of the biggest, most commercial deals out there. I mean, just to give our audience a little bit of a taste, you did the Charter Communications and Time Warner cable merger. You did you helped Snapchat go public, the Verizon deal, AOL and Yahoo. But I want to hone in a little bit on the Comcast deal because Brian Roberts runs the big conglomerate of Comcast. He now goes out and buys NBC, but then puts Steve Burke, one of the best CEOs around, to run the company. a few questions there. Number one, has that been a good or bad investment for Comcast? And does it work without the leader, that person like a Steve Burke?
It's been probably one of the best transactions in media history.
Why?
Because NBC Universal was not a particularly well-managed asset when Comcast bought it. And Comcast was an entrepreneurial company, still is an entrepreneurial company. It's not run by General Electric, which was owning NBC at the time. This kind of really big conglomerate. Comcast was an entrepreneurial bootstrapped company that was grown out of family business that Brian's father, Ralph Roberts, started. So they put this entrepreneurial fervor and energy into NBC and basically looked around the corner for new ideas for growth and really grew it. So for example, I remember when NBC Universal, they were first looking at it, they said, the theme park business may not be our core business. Comcast had these, NBC has these theme parks, Comcast never had a theme park business, so maybe we should sell the theme park business. And then Steve Burke looked at it and said, you know what? This is a great model. There's no technology issue to disenfranchise theme parks. People come, you have great experiences with their families. They had a Harry Potter relationship at the beginning of Harry Potter's fanfare, and the theme parks took off as a core part of the business. So they just really knew how to grow the business, and it all goes back to people and management and a way of thinking about things different from the grain.
Quick break in the interview to talk to you about our friends from Roman. Erectile dysfunction is more common than you might think. 52% of men over 40 will experience erectile dysfunction at some point, and about 75% of those men don't seek treatment. That's why Roman makes it easy to get expert treatment from a U.S. licensed physician, all online, no judgment, no hassle, no hours spent in the waiting room. With Roman, you get expert medical care for ED right in front of, in the comfort and privacy of your own home. Everything is online, so it's convenient and discreet to contact a doctor about prescription medication. Getting started is simple. Just go to getroman.com/corp and complete an online visit with your medical history and symptoms. A licensed physician will evaluate your online visit and let you know within 24 hours if medication is right for you. If prescribed by the doctor, Roman delivers genuine medication right to your door with free 2-day shipping. So go right now, getroman.com/corp. Get a free online visit and a free 2-day shipping. Getroman.com/corp to get started with a free online visit. Getroman.com/corp. Do it right now. Getroman.com/corp. And you can get free online visit and free 2-day shipping with getroman.com/corp. Okay, back to the interview.
So last question on that, because I'm fascinated by the Comcast NBC transaction. Again, for our listeners, when you think about Steve Burke, Harvard Business School, sits on the board of Berkshire Hathaway, what are some of the things, I heard some of the things he's done well, what were some of the things that the company was doing poorly or not maximizing their potential?
Well, I think when you're a media company, you're not only dealing with zeros and ones and numbers, but you're dealing with people, which in a lot of cases in the form of talent. And so when you're NBC, you have late night talk show hosts, you have news anchors, you have all this different talent, and if you say the wrong thing on air, it could cause a huge fanfare. So I think a cable company, which was what Brian Roberts was running with Steve Burke's help, getting into the content business, had to start looking at how the content affects people, all the way to MSNBC and the news platform. You literally have a huge platform for news, one of the most powerful news platforms in the world, now owned by Comcast. So Steve Burke really had to think about how you interact with people and talent and make them feel comfortable while you have this huge profile responsibility in global news that can affect elections and a lot of other popular opinions.
Geopolitical.
Yeah.
How do you think about, or what happens when it goes wrong? I don't know if you need to cite something that, a partnership that went wrong. But what typically makes things break apart?
Well, I think most things that go wrong are due to hubris or ego. Meaning, self-awareness, I think, is a real baseline for me. And if your listeners really care to think about that as a concept, it's really understanding the truth and the authenticity of who you are as a person, right? And an ego is just an inflation above that self-aware truth to compensate for something that you want to project to somebody. So that's a person doing that. And that could be powerful, makes you feel great, but also could be risky if you fall flat. Companies have the same thing. If companies, which really have the form of the complex emotions of a person, in a lot of cases, want to buy the best and shiniest toy out there of a company, like if someone wanted to buy Netflix today, that could be a great thing for a company to do because they're all of a sudden in the direct streaming business around the globe. It's incredible, but it may not be the best move necessarily. It may be expensive. It may not be the right move for that company. So you have to make sure that you don't overcompensate for things that you aren't trying to do. And these companies are very sophisticated.
Yep.
We help them think through these dynamics. But the other thing is you want to stay true to your core. A company that buys another company just to diversify away from what they already know is usually not a great concept because you don't want to ever lose your base.
Yep.
As you grow in life, you want to lock your base and then grow. Think about a trampoline. If you're on a trampoline and you're really not trustworthy of the foundation of that trampoline, you're going to jump on it in a very tentative way because you may fall through it. So therefore you don't jump so high to the sky.
Yeah.
But if you trust that foundation and that base like you want to lock it, you will jump and go as high as you can go. No ceiling. So I think as you get older, you want to lock the base, the foundation. A company wants to make sure they protect their base so then you can take risk as you grow. I think it's a very important construct.
And you're always landing back into what you know.
Keep your core.
I love that.
So you're talking about a trampoline and faith, right? And you jumped off a cliff, essentially, when you were the top banker at UBS. You had an incredible book. And you said, you know what? Good is the enemy of great. And I'm going to start LionTree. And I remember in the first 3 days, you were in your new office. You had about 14 people there that were just starting out. You didn't have no business.
Yeah.
And I looked at you square in the eye in 2012, which the world was still very scary. And I said, why? You said, I'm just going to make a big bet on myself and my family. And it was so inspiring to hear that. What gave you the courage? Because there's a lot of people out there that want to make the jump, but just need a little nudge. What was that for you?
I appreciate that. I remember those moments, and people talk about it now with a lot more wonder, like, I can't believe you did that. At the time, I just felt like it was the right thing to do. If I was that scared back then, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it.
Sure.
So you have to just kind of look forward, but I believe that I had enough training at that point. I was 38 years old, running investment banking in the Americas at UBS, and I said, do I want to spend the next 10 years really building up and managing at a big bank, or do I want to do something more entrepreneurial? And I thought to myself that when you work at a big institution, there's fundamentally a ceiling because the goal of the institutions, the bigger they are, is to become stable. As powerful and great as they are, their goal is stability. I said, I want my floor to be stable, not my ceiling to be stable. So I said, what if we could create something that uncaps the upside and thinks about a bank that can only focus on the creative industries and the digital economy? Just to focus on the industries that we already knew and attract people that were otherwise going to Silicon Valley and the shiny new technology company and make deal making in these industries fun because you have to come through for people. But we started with people that know how to crunch the numbers, do all the work, come through, leave nothing to chance. But it really is a function of the passion of the industry and the relationships that you create. Everything feeds off of one another. So I felt comfortable betting on myself and the team, but then right away you shift the responsibility of your employees because you own not only your family, but their family and their risk. And it's on your shoulders. And so it's all about like how you want to create the companies. Like in football, I think the hardest thing to do in football is returning a kickoff. Because when you're sitting there, you must feel that if you catch that ball, if you just dodge 300-pound people running 100 miles an hour at you in your face and you just dodge them, that's victory. But you also have to run down the field.
Right.
Like I'd be like, well, I just dodged the ball. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
But you dodge them and you're running. So you have to basically be able to run down the field with a lot of risk in your face and be comfortable getting further and further down the field. And I felt like, why not? Why not me? Why should it be somebody else?
I love that. I feel like that every day. Like Barstool, we're like trying to run the ball, 300 gorillas trying to kill us, trying to make the play. Like
I love, by the way,
invigorating.
congratulations on Barstool and your partnership because Barstool is not a media company that any of us grew up with, right? But it's a new media company. It's more than a media company. And why is it a media company? Because it engages your listeners and your audience all the time with great content in every format. And you don't have to rely on any gatekeepers or middlemen to tell you what to do. There's a relationship directly from your listeners to the content you're producing, and you cut out the middleman. That is the new age of media because you can effectively reach the audience much more directly and powerfully than we ever could before media. And that gives the responsibility to the content creator to come up with new exciting content all the time, which is what you do so well and what you guys are doing together. But it's a direct relationship that never happened before media. So it's a media 2.0 business, which is really authenticity, and the genre that you're focusing on is so exciting and fun to listen to and to watch.
Thank
That's
you.
I love
awesome.
it.
Thank
Having
you.
fun.
What do you think happens with Media 2.0?
Well, whenever you want to be sold, let me know. I think, the question is how
Cheddar
you
got
want-
sold
you
this
wanna
morning.
get.
I get a podcast and Cheddar gets an acquisition.
I actually think being sold is always a bit plan B.
Yeah.
Plan A is building as long
Yes,
as you
of
can,
course.
right? So I think you're still building.
Yeah, we
But
love to.
Erika, I have to say, is not just a CEO, but she is a vibrant, energizing figure in my life overall, and I learn a lot from her, and she's a lot of fun too.
Broke my arm on Aryeh's watch.
Yeah, what happened?
Have you
Tell
noticed
me about
this is
your
my
wrist.
first episode of the Corp without a cast, which is credit to Aryeh.
yeah.
Tell me about that. What happened?
Aryeh runs a good dance floor. It's kind of like his business philosophy. He puts a lot of people on the dance floor. He kind of lets it go a little bit. I took full advantage.
Yeah, I may choreograph the dance floor and put it together, but it takes the dancers. And
Okay.
this woman over here
A little bit of
is
tequila.
an incredible dancer. Like I couldn't believe it. Like,
I've been saying I was a good dancer.
Great
that night.
reveal.
Nobody.
Erika's a great dancer. I love
she's
that.
a great. She closed the dance floor, and by that time I was already gone, and
Yep.
we had a bit of an after party from this event in a suite, and Erika rolls in, and she is like holding her hand. And while holding her hand on one hand and holding a drink in the other hand, so doing multitasking. But we were talking, having a conversation, and I said, "What's going on?" She goes, "I fell on the dance floor, but I think I'll be fine." And I said, "Is it swelling up?" And she said, "Yeah, it's swelling up." And I said, "Well, advice to you may want to take your rings off, because if you sleep with this tonight, you can wake up in the morning and have a swelled up
them
hand and
off.
all these rings." And she goes, "Good idea." She took her rings off, and she goes, "Here, take them," and she gives them to me. And I'm like, okay. So
This is very late at night.
I must have put them like on my.
You were
desk.
like, I know what to do.
I know what to do.
do.
So I put them on. I said, I'll take the responsibility. So I put the rings on my desk, and I put it in my wallet.
Which was smart.
Right, so I wouldn't forget it, A, and B, when I came home to my family, they were
like somebody
just in
else's rings
case
in there.
I had an extra check there to make sure. And I woke up next morning and I would go to the desk and I see these rings in the wallet, and I'm like trying to figure out what exactly happened. And I go, aha, these are Erika's rings. And so I met her at the breakfast where we had a group breakfast, and I said, come over here. And I said, put your hand out. And I turned over my little wallet and I poured the rings onto her hand. And I said, here you go. She's like, thank you. And she's like, it just talks about the trust that we have that we could share this experience.
But I also think it's like
that.
that's exactly it. Like I had a broken arm, a lot to drink. We were hanging out. It was just that's the connection you can. I valued it as a person. I value you as a CEO. We value you as a partner. Like. It's that rapport that makes doing business fun. Alex always says that, it's not fun to win alone.
Yeah, I love that.
I think that that's true. And I think the friendships and the opportunity that you can create in unexpected moments is incredible.
I love, people forget that this life arc that we live has an end gate, a maturity date. It will end, unfortunately. So you don't want to sequence things too much in your life, where I'll do that later. I'll do that after I do the following things. I'll build a career. You want to try to do as much as you can all at once. So I like to integrate the business and the friendship and life. And you can do everything at the same time as much as you can, because you get the most out of the depth of the time we're here. And I really value our relationship. I value our friendship and our relationship. And I'm really proud that you guys are building an asset base together. And I look forward to many more years to come,
Aryeh, thank you so much.
Thank you,
This was
guys.
so great.
Founder of LionTree and CEO, continued success, and we will be reading about you in the near future, I'm sure, a lot of good things.